Okay, real talk for a second. You know that moment, you're sitting in your car in the parking lot of Target, and you went in for shampoo. Just shampoo. Maybe $8. You walked out $140 lighter, and you're holding 3 scented candles, a throw pillow you don't need, 2 sets of kitchen gadgets you'll never use, and, yes, the shampoo. You sit there in the driver's seat and you think, why do I keep doing this? Or maybe it's different for you. Maybe you get paid on Friday, and by Tuesday, you're already checking your balance with one eye closed, hoping the number isn't as bad as you feel like it is. And it is. It's exactly as bad as you feel like it is. Or maybe you've tried to save money. Like, genuinely tried. You told yourself this month is the month. You opened a savings account, you downloaded a budgeting app, you watched YouTube videos just like this one, and then life happened. A bill came, a friend's birthday dinner, you had a stressful week, and the savings plan quietly died somewhere around the 12th of the month. Here's what nobody tells you about that. It's not a discipline problem. I'm going to say that again because it matters. It is not a discipline problem. You are not lazy. You are not irresponsible. You are not broken. You are, and I mean this in the most literal neuroscientific way possible, a human being whose brain is running ancient software that was never designed for a world with Amazon Prime, mobile payments, buy now, pay later, and 47 streaming subscriptions. Your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem is that it was built for a completely different world than the one we're living in. And once you understand how your brain actually works around money, like the real mechanics of it, you'll stop blaming yourself and you'll start working with your brain instead of against it. That is what this video is about. By the end of this, you're going to understand why saving feels so unnatural. Why every piece of traditional FINA, that is what this video is about. By the end of this, you're going to understand why saving feels so unnatural. Why every piece of traditional financial advice you've ever gotten has probably made things worse, and, most importantly, the specific psychological strategies that actually rewire how you experience money. Let's get into it. Let me paint you a picture of the average person's financial life in 2025. According to a 2024 survey by Bankrate, nearly 57% of Americans couldn't cover an unexpected $1,000 expense from their savings. Not $10,000, not $5,000, $1,000. More than half of people in one of the wealthiest countries on earth are one car repair away from financial stress. The Federal Reserve's annual report on household economics found that roughly 37% of adults in the U.S. said they would struggle to cover an emergency expense of $400. They'd either put it on a credit card, borrow from someone, or simply not be able to pay it. Meanwhile, the average American carries about $6,000 in credit card debt, and the average interest rate on that debt sitting at around 21% annually as of 2024. So people are paying hundreds of dollars a year just to maintain the privilege of owing money. And here's the thing that should really bother you. These aren't just statistics about financially reckless people. These statistics include doctors, teachers, engineers, people with master's degrees. The problem cuts across income levels in ways that surprise most people. A 2023 study published in the Journal of Financial Planning found that income alone is a poor predictor of savings behavior. In other words, making more money doesn't automatically mean you save more money. In fact, a pretty well-documented phenomenon called lifestyle inflation means that as income rises, spending often rises to match it, sometimes faster. So what's actually going on here? If it's not about income, and it's not about intelligence, and it's not about willpower, then what is it? The answer is hiding inside your skull. Your brain has what neuroscientists call a present bias. It's a fundamental cognitive feature, not a bug, not a flaw, a feature, where your brain systematically overvalues things you can have right now compared to things you could have in the future. Okay, so now let's talk about why the advice you've probably heard your whole life has almost certainly made things harder, not easier. Traditional personal finance advice operates on a really simple assumption that humans are rational actors who, when given good information and clear instructions, will make optimal decisions. That assumption is wrong, and it's been wrong for decades. Behavioral economists have been screaming this from rooftops since the 1970s. Richard Thaler won a Nobel Prize in 2017, essentially for proving that humans don't behave rationally with money. We now have decades of research confirming that human financial decision-making is emotional, irrational, inconsistent, and deeply influenced by psychology. But most personal finance advice hasn't caught up. It still sounds like this: just make a budget and stick to it. Stop buying coffee every day. That's thousands of dollars a year. Live below your means. If you just saved $200 a month from age 22, you'd have over $500,000 by retirement. This advice isn't wrong exactly. The math is usually right. The logic is usually sound. But there's a fatal flaw. It treats willpower like it's a renewable resource that you can just decide to have more of. Here's what we know about willpower. It's actually finite. Psychologist Roy Baumeister's famous research on ego depletion showed that self-control draws on a limited mental resource. Every decision you make, every time you resist something, every time you choose the responsible option, depletes that resource a little bit. So the classic advice of just exercise more discipline with money is like telling someone who's physically exhausted to just run faster. The instruction isn't wrong, but it ignores the fundamental reality of the situation. And then there's the shame spiral. Traditional financial advice is often delivered with an implicit, or sometimes explicit, moral judgment. Spending money on things you enjoy gets framed as irresponsible, weak, or even morally questionable. The latte, the avocado toast, the takeout. Here's what that shame spiral actually does. Psychologically, it backfires. A 2014 study published in the Journal of Consumer Research found that feelings of financial shame and guilt actually increase impulsive spending. When people feel bad about their money habits, they often respond by spending more, not less. The emotional discomfort of guilt triggers a desire for immediate comfort. And what provides immediate comfort? Spending. So the advice designed to make you save actually makes you spend. Then there's the budgeting trap. Budgets work for some people, but research consistently shows they fail for most people. For a simple reason: they require you to make dozens of micro decisions every single day. Should I get the $14 lunch or the $8 lunch? Can I afford this birthday gift? Is this Amazon purchase in budget? Decision fatigue is real. Every decision costs mental energy. A budget that requires constant monitoring and constant decisions burns through that energy fast. And when your mental energy is depleted, your emotional brain, remember the one that loves immediate rewards, takes over. So by Thursday afternoon, after a long week, when you're tired and stressed and your prefrontal cortex is basically running on fumes, the budget doesn't stand a chance against the craving for takeout and a new shirt. None of this means you should abandon financial responsibility. It means we need a completely different approach, one that works with human psychology instead of assuming human psychology doesn't exist. All right, so here it is. The core idea that changes everything. It's called behavioral architecture for money, or what I like to call system design saving. Here's the principle. Instead of trying to change how you feel about money, or trying to force yourself to make better decisions through willpower, you design your environment and your systems so that the default behavior is the smart financial behavior. You stop fighting your brain, you start designing around it. This isn't a new idea. It's actually the foundational principle of behavioral economics, and it's been quietly used by the world's most successful retirement savings programs, the most effective public health campaigns, and the highest performing investor psychology research. Psychologists call it choice architecture. The idea was popularized in a landmark 2008 book called Nudge by Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein, which literally reshaped how governments and corporations think about behavior. The fundamental insight, the way choices are presented, the defaults, the ordering, the ease of access, dramatically influences which choices people make, even when people believe they're making fully rational, free decisions. Classic example: countries where organ donation is opt-in, meaning you have to actively sign up, have donation rates around 15 to 20%. Countries where organ donation is opt-out, meaning you're automatically enrolled unless you actively withdraw, have donation rates of 80 to 95%. Same people, same values, completely different outcomes. All because of the default. The same principle applies to money. Completely. And the beautiful thing is, once you set up your systems correctly, you barely have to think about them. The right financial decisions happen almost automatically because you've engineered your environment so that the path of least resistance is also the smartest path. Let me break down what this looks like in practice. The core framework has 3 parts. Let's start with part 1, making saving automatic and invisible. The psychological mechanism here is what behavioral economists call status quo bias. Humans have a powerful preference for the current state of affairs. Whatever is happening right now tends to keep happening, not because we actively choose it, but because changing the status quo requires effort, and we naturally avoid effort. If you have to manually transfer money to savings every month, that transfer requires a decision. And as we discussed, decisions are expensive, mentally expensive. You will miss months. You will rationalize skipping it. You will face friction, but if your savings is automatically transferred the moment your paycheck hits your account, before you ever see it, before you can spend it, then doing nothing means saving happens. The status quo becomes saving. And here's the key: money you never see, you never miss. This is backed by overwhelming research. The Vanguard How America Saves report consistently shows that employees automatically enrolled in 401(k) plans have participation rates of 91%, compared to just 28% for opt-in programs. When saving is automatic, people save. When it requires action, most people don't. There's also something called mental accounting, a term coined by Richard Thaler, which describes how people treat money differently depending on where it lives. Money sitting in your checking account feels available and spendable. Money sitting in a separate savings account, especially one that's slightly harder to access or has a specific label, emergency fund, house down payment, freedom fund, feels more protected. The physical separation creates psychological separation. Now, part 2, making spending intentionally harder. The psychological concept here is friction. Every additional step, delay, or inconvenience between you and a spending decision dramatically reduces the chance you'll follow through with it. A famous study of online grocery shopping found that when researchers added a simple 5-second delay before impulse items could be added to a cart, impulse purchases dropped by 18%. 5 seconds. That's all it took to give the rational prefrontal cortex time to engage. This works for online shopping too. Removing your saved credit card information from websites, having to physically get your wallet to complete a purchase, even just adding items to a cart and waiting 24 hours before checking out. These small friction points dramatically reduce impulse spending. There's a technique called the 2-4-hour rule that many behavioral economists recommend. For any non-essential purchase over a certain threshold, say $50 or $100, you wait 24 hours before buying. If you still want it, after 24 hours, you can buy it. What you'll find is that a huge percentage of purchases you were excited about in the moment become completely unnecessary feeling the next day. That's your rational brain getting a chance to participate in the decision. Another version of this is the implementation intention strategy, which comes from psychologist Peter Gollwitzer. Instead of vague goals like, I want to spend less, you create specific if-then plans. If I get the urge to online shop after 9 p.m., then I'll write down what I want in my phone notes and review it the next morning. Research on implementation intentions shows they can more than double the likelihood of people following through on their behavioral goals. Now, part 3, reframing your financial identity. This one is arguably the most powerful, and it's the one most financial advice completely ignores. Psychologist and habits researcher James Clear makes a crucial distinction in his work. There's a difference between outcome-based identity and behavior-based identity. Outcome-based identity sounds like, I want to save more money. Behavior-based identity sounds like, I'm the kind of person who pays themselves first. Why does this matter? Because our behavior is deeply consistent with our self-concept. When you think of yourself as a saver, as someone who is financially responsible as a core part of who you are, spending decisions start to feel like violations of identity, not just inconveniences. Conversely, when saving happens, it feels like confirmation of who you are. Research by social psychologist Wendy Wood at USC found that up to 43% of daily actions are habits, automatic behaviors repeated in stable contexts with little conscious thought. The goal of identity-based behavioral architecture is to make good financial behaviors habitual, part of the automatic layer of your daily life, not the effortful decision-making layer. And here's what's really exciting. Once a behavior becomes part of your identity, it requires almost no willpower to maintain. A person who identifies as a runner doesn't have to fight themselves to lace up their shoes. A person who identifies as a saver doesn't have to fight themselves to transfer money before they spend it. You're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to shift who you believe yourself to be. Marcus's story. Marcus is 31, in tech sales, makes good money, 6 figures. But he'd spent years keeping up with a high-spending friend group. Nice restaurants, expensive trips, the latest tech gadgets, premium everything. He wasn't broke, but he also wasn't building anything. His savings rate was essentially zero. He knew, intellectually, that he should be investing. But there was always something. A trip? A great dinner? A new phone? That seemed more real and more immediate than some number in a retirement account he'd access in 30 years. His shift came when he started reading about behavioral economics and made one specific change to his environment. He deleted the Amazon app from his phone and removed his credit card from all websites' saved payment information. Sounds trivial, right? His impulse online spending dropped by about 60% within a month. Because when the friction was there, when he actually had to go find his card, type in 16 numbers, an expiration date, a security code, a lot of the purchases just didn't happen. The impulse would pass by the time he got his wallet. He redirected that spending into index funds. Within 18 months, he had his first $20,000 invested. Aisha's story: Aisha is 24, a nurse, paying off $34,000 in student loans. Every month felt like a losing battle. Minimum payments on loans, modest rent, a car payment. She felt like she was financially trapped, like no matter what she did, the hole just stayed the same depth. The psychological toll was real. Studies show that financial stress activates the same neural pathways as physical threat. It triggers a scarcity mindset, a state described by researchers Sendhil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir in their book Scarcity, where the mental bandwidth consumed by financial worry actually impairs decision-making. Stressed, bandwidth-depleted brains make worse financial decisions. It's a cruel loop. Aisha's change wasn't primarily financial, it was psychological. She stopped tracking her debt balance obsessively and started tracking her monthly progress instead. Specifically, one number. How much of her paycheck was going toward her loans beyond the minimum? Even when that number was small, seeing progress instead of just a big, scary total balance gave her brain a sense of momentum. She also applied something called debt avalanche, paying minimums on all debts while throwing any extra money at the highest interest debt first. But she framed it differently. Instead of, "I'm battling $34,000 in debt," she said, "I'm freeing up $275 a month in 11 months when this card is paid off." She was playing a future you game, making the future feel concrete and close enough that her present biased brain could actually care about it. 3.5 years later, she was debt-free. These stories illustrate something important. None of these people became financial geniuses. None of them developed superhuman self-control. They changed their systems, their environments, and their mental frames. And the behavior followed naturally. Okay, let's get very practical. Here's exactly how to implement this, starting today. Step 1. The Pay Yourself First automation. Open a savings account at a different bank from your checking account. Not a complicated one, just a high-yield savings account. Ally, Marcus by Goldman Sachs, and SoFi are popular options in the US. As of 2024, Many of these are offering 4 or 5% APY, which is dramatically better than the 0.01% most big bank savings accounts pay. Set up an automatic transfer, even if it's $25, $50, or $100, to happen within 24 hours of your paycheck landing. Not at the end of the month. Not when I have extra. The day after payday. Start with an amount that doesn't feel scary. The specific number matters less than the habit. You can increase it over time. The goal in the first month is just to prove to your brain that saving before spending is survivable. This single step, automatic savings before discretionary spending, is the single highest leverage financial change most people can make. It turns the status quo from spend everything available to save first. Spend what remains. Step 2, create a cooling off system for purchases. Pick a threshold, $30, $50, $75, whatever makes sense for your income, and establish a rule. Any non-essential purchase above that threshold requires a 24-hour wait. The best way to implement this is with a want list, a note in your phone where you write down things you want to buy, with the date you wrote it down. After 24 hours or 72 hours for larger purchases, revisit the list. Buy the ones you still genuinely want. Cross out the ones that seem less urgent now. You'll be surprised how many fall into the second category. This doesn't mean never buying things you want. It means giving your rational brain a seat at the table alongside your emotional brain. Step 5. Rewrite your financial identity statement. This one requires a bit of reflection, but it's powerful. Write down, physically in a journal or your phone notes, one sentence that describes who you are financially. Not who you want to be, who you are present tense. It might feel awkward at first. Write something like, I am someone who saves a little every month, no matter what. Or, I am the kind of person who waits before buying things I don't need. Or, I take care of future me the same way I take care of present me. Read it when you wake up and when you go to bed for 2 weeks. This sounds ridiculous. Do it anyway. Research on self-affirmations and identity priming consistently shows that explicitly stating identity-aligned behaviors increases the likelihood of those behaviors occurring. You're literally reprogramming the self-concept that drives automatic decision-making. Step 6. Track progress, not perfection. Instead of tracking how much debt you have left, track forward momentum. How many months in a row you've made an automatic savings transfer, how much your savings balance has grown since you started, how many impulse purchases you successfully delayed and decided not to make. Progress metrics feel different, psychologically, than deficit metrics. They activate reward circuits rather than threat circuits. Your brain is much better at pursuing things than avoiding things. Design your tracking accordingly. Step 7. Automate the boring stuff. Wherever possible, put your financial life on autopilot. Automatic minimum payments on all debts. Never miss a payment. Never pay a late fee. Automatic savings transfer, as above. If you're investing, automatic contributions to your 401k or IRA. The goal is to remove as many financial decisions from your daily mental load as possible. Every decision you automate is one you can't screw up. Financial stability shouldn't require constant vigilance. It should be built into your system. Here's something I want you to sit with for a second. The way most people think about financial success looks like a straight line. You set a goal, you work toward it, you achieve it, you're done. Save money, pay off debt, retire. Done. But that's not actually how it works, psychologically or practically. Money is not a destination. It's a relationship you have for your entire life. And like any relationship, it requires ongoing attention, adjustment, and, critically, self-compassion. You will have months where you spend more than you intended. You will have setbacks, unexpected expenses, job changes, health issues, a global pandemic, whatever life decides to throw at you. These are not evidence that you're failing. They are evidence that you are alive. The people who build real, lasting financial stability are not the ones who never make mistakes. They are the ones who have systems strong enough to survive mistakes. They are the ones who experience a bad month and say, okay, back to the system, instead of, I'm a failure, why bother? This is where the psychological shift gets deep. There's a concept in psychology called locus of control, the degree to which you believe you have control over the things that happen in your life. Research consistently shows that people with an internal locus of control, who believe their actions influence their outcomes, have better financial outcomes, better health outcomes, and greater overall life satisfaction, compared to people with an external locus of control who believe outcomes are determined by external forces and luck. Building financial systems isn't just about saving money. It's about training your brain to believe that your decisions matter, that what you do today has real compound effects on who you'll be in 5 years, that you are not at the mercy of your impulses, your past mistakes, or your circumstances. That is a deeply radical belief for a lot of people, especially people who grew up watching their parents struggle with money, especially people who were told, explicitly or implicitly, that financial success was for other people, people with better starts, better luck, better circumstances. I'm not going to pretend money is equally accessible to everyone. It's not. Systemic economic inequalities are real, and they are significant. Student loan debt, medical debt, stagnant wages, housing costs that have dramatically outpaced income. These are real structural problems that individual behavior can't fully solve. But within the constraints of your actual circumstances, whatever they are, the psychology still applies. Small, consistent, automatic actions compound over time in ways that are genuinely hard to believe until you experience them. Here's some math that might make this concrete. If you save $100 a month starting at age 25, invested in a broadly diversified index fund, earning an average of 7% annually, a conservative estimate for long-term stock market returns, by age 65, you'd have approximately $262,000. If you wait until 35 to start that same $100 a month, you'd have about $121,000. The 10-year delay cost you $141,000. But here's the flip side. The good news, if you increase that $100 to $200 a month at 25, you'd have $524,000 by 65. Double the investment, double the result. But the real magic is in the starting. Time in the market is the single most powerful wealth-building factor available to regular people. Not stock picking, not timing the market, not insider knowledge, just starting and letting compounding do its thing. And you don't need $500 to start. You need $25. The mindset shift here is recognizing that financial change is not a dramatic single event. It's not the moment you land the six-figure job, or pay off all your debt in one lump sum, or win some financial lottery. It's the accumulation of small, consistent, system-supported decisions made over a very long time. It's boring, and it's the only thing that works. I want to close with something that I think is more important than any of the strategies we've talked about today. You are not starting from zero. You are starting from experience, from the thing you learned about yourself in the parking lot of Target, or at 2 a.m. checking your bank balance, or the moment you realized something had to change. That awareness, that discomfort, is not failure. It is the first step of every meaningful change anyone has ever made. The fact that you're here, watching this, trying to understand not just what to do, but why your brain works the way it does, that's already ahead of where most people are. Most people just repeat the same patterns and assume they're inherently bad with money. You're asking better questions. And here's what I want you to take away from today. You don't need to be perfect. You need a system that survives your imperfection. You don't need to overhaul your entire life this week. You need to do one thing today. Maybe that one thing is opening a high-yield savings account. Maybe it's setting up a $50 automatic transfer. Maybe it's deleting Amazon from your phone. Maybe it's just writing down that identity statement, I am someone who takes care of future me, and reading it before you go to sleep tonight. Whatever it is, do one thing. One real concrete thing. Not a plan to make a plan, an actual action. Because here's what happens when you do one thing. It works. And when something works, you want to do more of it. And when you do more of it, it becomes a habit. And when it becomes a habit, it becomes part of who you are. And when it's part of who you are, it stops being hard. Your brain is not your enemy. It's running old software in a new world. Your job is to update the environment so the old software produces new results. You've got this. And if you want to go deeper on any of this, the specific high-yield savings account's worth considering, how to invest your first $1,000, the exact debt payoff strategy that's mathematically optimal for your situation. I've got full videos on all of it right here on this channel. Hit subscribe so you don't miss them. Drop in the comments what your one action from today is going to be. Seriously, write it down because people who state their intentions publicly are significantly more likely to follow through. It's science. Use the science. Take care of future you. They're going to thank you. See you in the next one. Don't forget to like and share to inform everyone.